Number one is, what problem are we solving? A lot of times you realize that you're not solving a problem at all, which means you probably don't need to do it. This is especially true the lower in the organization it goes, because people who are lower down in the org tend to not be as connected to the overarching picture of the company. Simple example, most goals have to be chunked up to one of three things. Number one, they're going to help us get more customers. Number two is that it's going to help us make customers worth more. And number three, it's going to increase the enterprise value of the company. If you can't articulate why the goal is going to do that, then you shouldn't do it. So number one, pick what problem you're actually trying to solve. Simple example, if IT decreases the page load times on all of our sites, we will get more leads. If we get more leads, we get more customers, etc. If IT improves the sign-on process for customers to have access to something, that will mean we have fewer customers churn, which means we will make customers more valuable. If you can't tie how your department and the function that you have either gets us more customers, makes them worth more, increases the enterprise value of the business, means you don't understand your job. And if you're the entrepreneur or the head of the department, you don't know how you're actually providing value to the business. Breaking that down is the first and most important part of goal setting. If this process actually makes you think, then it means you're doing it right. It takes a lot of 0 to 1, a lot of shiny objects, a lot of new things, a lot of trial and error, a lot of iterate until something clicks in the beginning. But big businesses often grow by a series of 1% improvements. 1%, 1%, 1%. Because you've seen the Excel math when you're like, well, if I only got 10% more people to opt in, and I got 15% more people to schedule, and I got 20% more people to show, and I closed one from 25% to 35%. You add all this together, and all of a sudden, you tripled the business. And the thing is that everyone gets so distracted with like I'm gonna reinvent the wheel, rather than just making the wheel a little smoother so it runs faster. And so a lot of times, especially in the 5, 10, 15, $20 million top line range, that's some of the systems we have to put in place, because that's how the big boys play. They beat you because they actually can do 100 tiny increments. I think Gym Launch grew 40% last year, and we did nothing new. All we did was we did everything we were currently doing a little bit better. If you do that year after year after year, you become very hard to beat, because people will see your marketing on the outside. They'll try and copy your pages, they'll try and copy your emails, and one, it won't be you, so it won't matter because it's not your story. But they don't know all the internal standard operating procedures, the internal metrics that you guys are tracking that actually create the growth in the company. And a lot of times in the early business, just measuring metrics may be the important goal for the quarter so that you can then improve it. Let's say you're a videographer in a marketing department, right? Each of these goals should start from the top down. So if we say these are our 5 goals as a company, the department heads are going to probably have multiple activities to make the first hypothesis true or not. I like to have everybody as far down in the organization do this, because it actually causes you to think about why you do what you do. A lot of times employees lose motivation because they don't know how what they do every day ties into the bigger picture of how the company grows and makes more money. With a videographer, for example, they're like, well, what do I do? Like, what problem am I solving? The problem is get more customers. They might not think about it that way, but that's the goal. Well, my hypothesis is either we might say it's a volume thing, which is if I double the amount of shorts I make, then we will get more traffic to our website from our organic content. And at the end of the quarter, did you make twice as many shorts? Okay, green, fantastic. Did that result in more link clicks on the site? Oh, it didn't. Huh, interesting. I wonder what would do it. Okay, we need to create more content that's more story-based. Great, go back to the beginning. If we create more story-based content, we will get more link clicks to website. That's why goal setting, if done right, should take work, because it makes you think, why am I even doing what I'm doing? And if you don't take like a day for a whole quarter to think, why am I even bothering to do this? Then why are you bothering to do it without understanding what you're trying to improve? And the thing is if you think this way as a teammate or an entrepreneur, I promise you, you will be so much more valuable to your company if you can even think like a business owner. And this is how a good business owner should think. And if you can approach whoever runs your company with this model, you may find that they will see you differently, because they're like, wow, Timmy, who's making these video clips, is actually thinking about what I care about, which is how I'm gonna get more customers. Whatever the second part of the statement is. If you know what you're actually trying to accomplish in the business, then it makes it a lot easier. What problem are we solving? What's our hypothesis? What are we gonna do? What do we think is gonna happen? Did we do it? Did it happen? That's it. And so that has been the simplest goal setting framework that we've used. We use this across all portfolio companies. That's what we do across everything. And it's been the simplest thing that I've seen. I haven't seen it anywhere else. It's worked for us, and maybe it'll work for you. The biggest issue that I've had with friendships in general is that people project what they believe friendships should look like in their minds onto our relationship. For me, I am transactional. This is gonna probably piss a lot of people off. The pros of this relationship should outweigh the cons. And if people are like, I can't believe you'd say that, we probably wouldn't be friends, and that's okay. You'll probably be friends with people who don't have that definition. But for me, that means that like my life is better off with you in it. You help me achieve my goal. You root for me along the way. If you think about everything you do as an investor, you invest time and energy into a relationship with the hopes of getting some sort of positive return. You spend that time no matter what. And the people who build the best relationships, the best networks, are the ones who invest in relationships that yield the highest returns. One of the hardest things about pursuing your dreams and pursuing your goals is that a lot of the people that are in your life right now will not support the future version of you that you need to become in order to accomplish those goals. People don't actually want the best for you. They want the version of you that best serves them. Now, the closer they are to you in terms of long-term alignment, the more likely those two versions of you will intersect, which is often, not always, why family and your spouse should hopefully be the most aligned with you, because long-term, their best interest is often aligned with your best interest. Rich people will always pay for speed. The easiest way to appeal to the rich is just do the same thing in half the time. Whatever the service is, if it's dry cleaning, return it by end of day. If you only have a phone number, be the person that can accept anything. If they email you, shoot you a text, if they WhatsApp you, if they phone call, you can accept anything because you've made it convenient. They just want it to be effortless. The third is, if we know what products and services they want, how to price those things appropriately. When you solve rich people problems, you get to charge rich people prices. When you deal with rich people, you have unlimited upside, which is why they are better customers. There's 5 things I want to talk about from the customer's perspective, because if you increase the quality of your customers, you increase the quality of your business. Number 1, when you charge more money for your products or services, you get an increased emotional investment. If you have a very low cost item, people won't even give it the time of day. And so when you raise the price, you raise their emotional investment, and in a real way, you actually increase the likelihood that they get results. The second way that it'll help your customers is that it will increase their perceived value. There was a research study where they had 3 bottles of wine. They had a cheap wine, a mid-price wine, and an expensive wine. They had people try them out, and they had them rank them based on what they thought. So people said, oh, I think the most expensive wine's the best, the middle price is the middle, and the cheapest wine was the worst. And that's not that surprising, except when the researchers explained that all 3 wines were the same. When you raise your prices, a more expensive thing is perceived in real terms as more valuable, even if the actual core product is the same. The third is results for your customers. If you increase their emotional investment, you increase their perceived value, what ends up happening? They actually do get better results. When they sign up for the gym for personal training versus a $10 a month thing, they get better results. The fourth thing that happens when you raise your prices, you actually attract less demanding customers. Have you ever seen this meme? The customer says, well, what exactly am I gonna be getting for $50? And then it has the rich customer who's like, wire a cent, let me know what next steps are. Anybody who's ever been in client services can attest to this. The higher the price tag, the more expensive the contract, the fewer payment plans you have to set up, the easier the customer is to deal with. Part of the reason that a $50 person is saying, well, what exactly am I be getting? If somebody's got $100 in their bank account, you're asking for 50% of their net worth. Just because someone's willing to pay you doesn't mean that you should take it. The fifth benefit that your customers will get as a result of raising your prices is that you actually have more money you can deliver on your promises for. So imagine you've got a hard cost thing that costs $5 and you charge $8. Well, you only have $3 left to run the rest of your business, provide service. You don't have a lot of room there. Now imagine you charge $50 for that same $5 thing. You have $45 that you can now use to deliver 2, 3, 4 times the value. The customer gets a better experience. You can reinvest in your product. You can attract higher level talent to your business. If you have no margin, the best people aren't going to work for you. They're going to go to the real business owner who understands how margin needs to work. Whereas you're sitting here dealing with fires all day because of people haggling over $50, the best way to sell is having the full conviction that your product is the best. And you can't say your product's the best if you're trying to do it on margin and you don't have the money to reinvest in good people. You can't do it. The one thing that limits every business is the entrepreneur, not the opportunity, not the business vehicle, not anything else. It's the entrepreneur. Everything stems from them. There's 3 things. You've got the skills of the entrepreneur, the character traits of the entrepreneur, and then you have what I would call the beliefs of the entrepreneur. What do they believe about the world to be true? And what do they believe about the world to be true that isn't?
We have so many of these belief statements that like quote society or things that we inherit, but we just choose to say that this is how life is.
Which you've got the ladder of success. Skills on one side, beliefs on the other side, and then you've got character traits in the middle as the rungs. You might have a tremendous amount of skills and great character, but your beliefs are limited. If all of a sudden you see somebody have an overnight success, it's usually because they had 2 of the 3 already very, very high level, but they were missing some huge part. Some belief was wrong. So for example, for me, when I went from 2 million to 7 to just under 30 in a matter of like 3 years, I believed things that were true about the world that weren't. And I didn't know that licensing was a model. I didn't know I could expand in that way. And in so doing, I was able to explode because I got into the right vehicle. The vehicle wasn't the limiter. It was me and my beliefs about it. And then as soon as I changed the way I saw the world, I was able to get into a much better vehicle and explode from there. And so I think that the amount of time that elapses between wanting to figure something out and doing something, the more advanced you get, shortens. I remember it took me 3 years to figure out how to build a landing page, and the day I decided to do it, it took me 4 hours. So it took me 3 years and then 4 hours to actually figure it out because I was avoiding the feeling of sucking. And so if you can confront sucking faster and just get over that idea that sucking is a bad thing, then I think you compress the time between you and the skills you want. The best way to break a belief is to see someone doing what you thought was not real and then have it happen. A lot of people have heard of the Roger Bannister story, first man to break a 4-minute mile, and then the next year, 28 people or whatever it was broke the 4-minute mile. And I remember there was a moment where I was in a mastermind and there was a guy making, I think $350,000 a month. And he got up there and he sounded like an idiot. And Layla and I looked at each other afterwards and were like, if he can do it, we can do it.